as my cat is crying behind my door, let me just share the process of how I created the avatar of Lilith 32 by 64. You'll see why. And I'm just gonna explain what the heck did I do and why. So I'm starting with a regular 32 by 32 canvas, and I'm bringing the skeleton of the avatar that I used in a platform so I can kind of match up the size. And it's not going to look like this, but the proportions are very helpful. So if you create an avatar for your platform, and if you have example of like a standard size avatar, super helpful. But the important thing is that this is not going to be a playable character. So this is more like an NPC, if you will, like a fun object in space. That's the purpose. And I do have references. I might bring them here to just show what I was looking at, what I was making it. So I was just like improvising the colors because if you have played Diablo, you may have noticed, especially if you follow the story or just observe the story, that Lilith is portrayed slightly differently depending on which scene that is. And I think this is where I realized that this is kind of a little bit less streamlined to pick up her colors just like perfectly. So I'm just kind of putting things as a placeholder. So I'm going to change the colors later on, but just to differentiate between where the skin is, where the horns are, I'm just looking and see what I can do with this. The main challenge, of course, as in any pixel art, is to make it look like what it's supposed to be with very limited canvas. And yeah, I was finding myself playing with these horns longer than I has anticipated, because yeah, it's just like the curvature, the texture of her horns, very, very complex. So I had to simplify it at the same time maintaining the recognizable effect. But anyway, I'm kind of jumping back and forth between the elements of which I'm working on her. So I'm moving from the horns to the dress. I'm like, okay, let me think about it while I'm playing with it. And again, her dress, like in some scenes, it looks bluish grayish. In other scenes, it's red. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it here. I'm gonna change it. And this is where I started to like commit a little bit more to the colors, and I just erased all the horns. I was like, okay, you know what? I can do better than this. And here I decided to commit more to shadows and lightness because that's seems like the sound way forward, because the larger horns are more underneath her face, while the more curvier ones are a little bit more on top. And yeah, I was like, okay, let me commit to the shadows, commit to the lights, and see what I can cook with it. So you're pretty much observing the cooking. And what I like that in this little preview, a little preview over there, you can kind of see what I'm going for. So if you remember, the skeleton that I started with looks nothing like this. The body position, yes, but everything else, where's the skeleton? Does not exist. And also keep in mind that Lilith's supposed to be giant, and this is without horns. She's very, very tall, and this issue I'm gonna address later. To be frank, it's the issue gonna be addressed in the next video because there's some changes, some changes in development had occurred. Not yet though. Anyway, I also realized, I'm like, oh shoot, she also has like a mini horns coming almost to her chin, which here looks nothing like it, and I'll have to figure that out, and you watch me suffer, watch me observing this. And here I started to more commit to a more muted color palette that she has been portrayed in some scenes where she's not completely pissed, but at the same time I want to make it a little bit vibrant and stand out, and you know, that's kind of what I'm going for. And I think it worked out actually pretty well, because so far she started looking a little bit like Medusa. I mean, she used to look a little bit like Medusa, but once I committed to more like a bony colors in her horns, I'm just like, okay, I see it better now. And what I like about it, that her very pale skin, with the horns, it just blends better. It actually does, because the animation looks absolutely stunning, and you can see how her how her skin turns into the bone of her horns. I'm just like, this is beautiful. And how to achieve this transition in pixel art? By trial and error. That's how this is the only way. So kind of experimenting and going with the flow as much as it's possible. And that's what I'm doing pretty much. And to make her eye pop, because if you can see her eyes, the mood that I'm going for is more muted, as I mentioned, and her eyes are in some scenes they very like red. She's gonna go punch you in the face and drink your blood, but here she's more like, oh, you talking shit to me, huh? Don't you doing? And you're like icy blue, and because her skin is so pale, I have to make it pop and not blend, and therefore I'm going for like a purplish, darkish around her eyes. So it's like, is this eyeshadows? Maybe not, but I think it worked out actually pretty nicely, because it blends into her horns like beautiful. I don't know what happened here, that is just like a half a horn just disappeared, but I did it very quick. And yeah, I'm using the reflection tool is a savior in a project like this, where it has to go symmetrical. Her horns are pretty identical on both sides. At least that's what I'm going for, to make my life a little bit easier. But yeah, I was actually pretty happy how it started to turn out, and this like bright red thing on her middle horn. Also making it pop. And I'm not sure how to call like this little item in between her horns, but I was like doing some research, apparently like fused with her horns, like a little crown, whatever that is. But as I was like, okay, I'm more or less satisfied with the proportion of her horns. And I also noticed that she has like a giant like shoulder pads that almost look like almost like a elephant like teeth. I can't think of the word right now. Elephant's teeth. And I was like, okay, that's getting a little bit tight in here. It's getting a little tight in space. I have to compromise. I have to do something. And I tried to fit it in. I tried to kind of put it a little bit forward, but in order to show this curvature, it just loses it. It blends too much. This is what I had to make it 64, because then I remember I was like, oh yeah, I'm having troubles with the shoulder pads. She also has wings. I was like, okay, there's no way on earth I can fit it all in 32 by 32. That's no way. But again, the good thing is that it's not going to be a playable character. It's going to be a cool feature character in space, which is the compromise I'm willing to take. And I think it turned out pretty good. Not yet. This is not the final thing, but it's kind of like, okay, forget shoulder pads. Wings are more important. Have to make decisions like this when you creating detailed characters with a limited space. Have to drop something. But I really like her wings. They like bony, very like gloomy, darkish, and I went for like a greenish, grayish shades, and I think it worked out pretty well. And I do realize that it looked like her wings are like coming from shoulders up the bottom to her feet, so I had to like shift it a little bit upward. But again, this is the mirror tool is my best friend in this situation. But then I wanted to go a little bit fancy. I'm like, well, her wings are so, you know, like thin, so I want to show it like the light shines through the membranes of her wings. And I was just like, you know what, I think I'm overcomplicating this a little bit, but that's the fun part. It's the fun part. Overcomplicate and then deal with the problems you created for yourself. And that's what I do. But I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad at how her wings are turning out, how it all blends together. And I'm very happy that it binds together this little like greenish crown on her horns with the membrane of her death wings. So let me know what you think. But yeah, as you can see, I'm kind of like, is the light shine through or no? Does it or no? And I decided to, you know what? It does not. It does very little. And I'm just testing to see in space how does it look like. And she's like tiny and cute in comparison to with the reference that I used. She's very tiny and cute, and you can see in space she looks absolutely adorable. So the new development that I was mentioning earlier is that I decided to create her in 64 by 64. This is 32 by 64, so she's short and wide. Because of the wings, I decided to go 64 by 64, so tall and wide. And this is going to be a next video. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.